We all think we know the story of Noah's Ark, right? A world so wicked it had to be washed clean by a terrible flood. But what if the real reason for that flood was something far more terrifying than just ordinary human sin? What if the downpour wasn't just to cleanse evil, but to wipe out a monstrous race of hybrids born from a celestial rebellion? Long before the flood, the world was facing more than just corruption. It was an invasion. A group of divine beings called the Watchers went rogue, and their forbidden union with humanity unleashed a threat that nearly tore creation apart. This is the story from the Book of Enoch, an ancient text that gives a shocking backstory to the flood, a story that, for some, was too explosive to be included in the biblical canon. To get the full picture, we have to rewind to a time when humanity was still young. Watching over them was a class of angels known as the Watchers. Their job was supposed to be simple: observe and protect mankind. But as the Book of Enoch tells it, watching led to wanting. These celestial beings looked down and were consumed by lust for human women. So, they made a pact. Led by an angel named Shemyaza, 200 of these Watchers gathered on Mount Hermon. Shemyaza had a moment of cold feet, worrying that some of his co-conspirators might back out, leaving him to take all the heat for this great sin. So he made them all swear a binding oath, calling a curse on themselves if they abandoned the plan. They were all in, fully aware they were about to cross a sacred line. Make no mistake, this wasn't an oops moment. It was a calculated, organized rebellion. These beings, created to be holy, chose to trade their heavenly home for earthly desires. In doing so, they didn't just fall. They dragged a piece of heaven's power down with them and kicked off a chain reaction that would corrupt the world and demand a final, terrible answer from God. This rebellion had two catastrophic consequences. First, there were the children. The union between the Watcher angels and human women produced offspring the world had never seen: the Nephilim. These weren't just the heroes of old briefly mentioned in Genesis. The Book of Enoch describes them in horrifying detail as immense giants with an insatiable appetite. They devoured all of humanity's food, and when that ran out, they started eating animals, birds, and then each other. Finally, in a sickening turn, they began to prey on humanity itself, drinking their blood and spreading terror. The world was thrown into chaos, groaning under the brutality of these monstrous hybrids. But the physical destruction was only half the story. The second disaster was a corruption of the mind. The fallen Watchers brought forbidden knowledge with them, secrets from heaven that humanity was never meant to have. A key player here was an angel named Azazel. He taught humanity how to forge swords, knives, and shields, the tools of war. He also introduced cosmetics and extravagant ornaments, which wasn't just about fashion. It was seen as an introduction to vanity, seduction, and promiscuity that pulled humanity further off course. The other Watchers taught their own dark arts. Shemyaza, the leader, instructed people in sorcery. Others revealed the secrets of astrology and divination, turning humanity away from God and toward the occult. This wasn't a gift, it was a deliberate act of corruption. It gave humanity power without wisdom and put the world on a fast track to ruin. The world had become a theater of horror. Bloodshed was everywhere as the Nephilim ravaged the land, and humanity, now armed with forbidden secrets, spiraled into depravity. The earth itself, stained with blood, seemed to cry out, and the screams of the dying and the terrified finally reached the gates of heaven. From their posts, 4 archangels, Michael, Uriel, Raphael, and Gabriel, looked down on the carnage. They saw the lawlessness and the sheer amount of blood being spilled. Horrified, they went straight to the throne of God. They reported the devastation, describing how the Watchers, led by Shemyaza and Azazel, had abandoned their posts and unleashed hell on earth. They talked about the giants filling the world with violence and how the forbidden teachings had corrupted society. Their appeal was basically a formal indictment against the fallen angels. The time for watching was over. It was time for judgment. God's response was swift, absolute, and came in 2 parts. He would sentence the angelic rebels, and then he would deal with the corrupted world they had created. First, the ringleaders. The Lord ordered the archangel Raphael to capture Azazel. bind Azazel hand and foot, and cast him into the darkness. He was to be thrown into a desert full of sharp rocks, bound in total darkness until the final day of judgment. Next, God sent the archangel Michael to deal with Shemyaza and his followers. Part of their punishment was being forced to watch their own Nephilim children be incited to kill one another in a great battle. After witnessing this horror, they too were bound and imprisoned in the valleys of the earth for 70 generations until the final judgment.
With the instigators sentenced, God issued his second decree, the cleansing of the earth. Uriel told Noah, "The whole earth will be destroyed, and a deluge is about to come upon the whole earth, and will destroy all that is on it."
So, where is Enoch in all of this? He's right in the middle of it. As the great-grandfather of Noah, Enoch was a righteous man who walked with God. Because of his unique position, he was chosen for an unprecedented and terrifying job, to be the messenger of doom to the fallen Watchers. After their rebellion, the Watchers were overcome with fear. Realizing the colossal scale of their mistake, they begged Enoch to write a petition for forgiveness and deliver it to God. Enoch did what they asked, but the answer he got was final. God's reply was a hard no.
You shall have no peace nor forgiveness of sin. Over the destruction of your children you shall lament, but mercy and peace you shall not attain. You have polluted yourselves with flesh and have no hope of returning to heaven. Enoch wasn't there to negotiate. He was there to confirm their damnation.
The story of the Watchers is like a dark, twisted prequel to the story of Noah's Ark we all know. It's a piece of ancient history that gives a terrifying context to the Great Flood. If you're into exploring these incredible stories that exist just outside the familiar canon, make sure to subscribe and hit that notification bell so you don't miss what we're diving into next. And now I have to ask, what do you think? Do you believe the Book of Enoch is a literal account of history, an allegory for human corruption, or something else entirely? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. So, what are we to make of this ancient story? The tale of the Watchers and Nephilim provides a wild and detailed answer to a question the book of Genesis leaves open. What exactly made the pre-flood world so evil that it had to be completely destroyed? This raises an even bigger question. Why was this book, a text so influential that it's referenced in the New Testament, ultimately left out of the biblical canon by most Christian and Jewish traditions? The reasons are complex. Some later theologians found the stories of giants and angel-human hybrids too fanciful or hard to reconcile with other scripture. Others pointed to uncertainty about its authorship. However, it's crucial to note the book wasn't forbidden everywhere. The Ethiopian Orthodox Tewahedo Church, for instance, has always included the Book of Enoch in its official Bible. Yet, its influence is undeniable. The New Testament book of Jude even contains a passage that directly alludes to a prophecy from the Book of Enoch. But perhaps its most chilling legacy is the origin story it provides for demons. The book says that when the giant Nephilim were killed, their physical bodies died, but because they were born of both spirit and flesh, their spirits were left to roam the earth. It states, "Evil spirits have proceeded from their bodies. They shall be evil spirits on earth, and evil spirits shall they be called." According to this tradition, these disembodied, malevolent spirits of the dead giants are the demons that have plagued humanity ever since. The story of the fallen Watchers is a powerful tale about rebellion, forbidden secrets, and a world nearly consumed by the consequences. It makes you wonder what other truths might be lying hidden in the pages of texts lost or left behind by time.